I mean, that's something we do in filmmaking, mainly because you've got such a big team. So everyone needs to know exactly how big something's going to be, because you could have like 10 different artists working on the same thing. But I do miss, like I've said to you before, just picking up a piece of clay and working just from imagination. I think I'm a perfectionist in a way that I don't know if I will ever please myself. So like when something's done, I will always see what's wrong with it, and I know other people don't. They don't see small little things that I'm worrying about. I have the vision in my head, and it's just trying to get the vision into a finished sculpture, and sometimes it takes quite a lot of planning to get to that point. I spent a lot of time just comparing myself to other artists and questioning myself as well. I've kind of learned to trust my instincts a little bit more. Just go for it and don't be worried.
With a love for creating unique characters and stop-motion animation, British artist Andy Bell brings a fresh perspective to polymer clay, transforming his ideas into expressive sculptures. Having worked on numerous commercials, children's TV shows and films, Andy's work celebrates the charm of imperfection, embracing asymmetry, personality, and handmade beauty. This time on the Polymer Week Podcast, we talk with Andy about his story, explore the behind-the-scenes of his distinctive characters, and hear more about his experiences working within the film industry. Hello, Andy. Welcome to Polymer Week to the Czech Republic as well. How are you feeling now, today?
I feel a lot calmer today, actually, seeing the venue and everything. It's been nice. I was very nervous when I first got here.
Nervous about what?
I think just nervous about teaching. I've never done it before.
Yeah. Well, we are so happy to have you here, and I would love to talk about it, because one of the most, I would say, coolest thing about the Polymer Week and the approach is that we are so happy to work with people who are not actually teachers initially, but just do a great art. And we are so happy that you are brave to go and teach. So what is about that experience that perhaps frightens you a little bit? And what are you looking for?
I think it's the public speaking element of it. I think that was the scariest part. But also I think I don't always follow, so when I'm working, it's very kind of fluid, and I change my mind and I throw things out. And I've never really had to think in a way that's methodical. It's like you do this step and then you do this step. So I think just planning that for a class and then trying to make it fit in 8 hours, that was scary.
Yeah. I also remember about the experience you told me. That wasn't really pleasure for the very first time of teaching. So here it's going to be very different, because there are hundreds of enthusiasts and they all are so happy to learn from you and learn from your skills. The truth is that sculpture in polymer clay is not something really they would be open to do. I feel like jewelry are always the main thing. So what is about a sculpture that you feel that they can learn about and perhaps bring that to the jewelry?
I think it's a different way of thinking. But I was saying to Julia today, I never really, when I started working with polymer clay, I never understood it as a community or something that people were interested in as a thing by itself. Because my reason for working with it was, if I made something out of plasticine, it would eventually get squashed and damaged. And if I made it out of Sculpey, it would last for years. So that's kind of how I got into it. I think my work focuses a lot on shape and colour, and maybe they could take that into jewellery as well. But I think it's quite different disciplines. I don't know how much crossover there'll be.
Yeah, I feel like there are going to be so many great tips. For example, when we spoke about the layers that you do with the cosplay at the end of sculptures, that was something that I've never heard of. And I'm so happy that we can cherish the different skills that every artist and sculptor and jewelry people got and share that together. But I'm also very curious about your past and your current. It's not a hobby, because you are initially a filmmaker, or you work for film industry, right? So how is it on those two different stages right now, being in that industry, but also becoming a polymer clay artist and teacher here?
Yeah, but quite different. I think the thing, so when I'm working in film, you very much we're behind the camera, so everything we do is kind of, it's never seen. It's not necessarily something people think about. So by the time a stop motion films came out, the characters are made and they're on screen, and no one's looking at the details or the craft that's really gone into it. Whereas doing this experience, it's people are interested in the craft, they want to know about me as well, which is a weird experience.
And we can appreciate the details, right? Like, do you mean we can actually stop to observe and look at that? Like in the film, everything is so fast that you can't see that?
I think people just appreciate, because there's people who go to see like animated films and are interested in animation, so they will be looking out for like details and notice them things. And then there's kind of people who just appreciate film for film, so they're not really, they just want a good story, necessarily care how it was made. That's the reason I enjoy stop motion and why I wanted to get into it. Is like the same reason that I enjoy working with polymer clay, and it is them little details, looking at kind of like stitching on pockets and how do you replicate that on something that's this tall. That's what I find exciting anyway.
Because you are now connecting those two words, very different two words, together through your art. Do you feel they are influencing each other right now?
I think so. I mean, like all my work comes from, it's because I do characters, it's heavily influenced by kind of character design work I've done, and I'm always thinking about characters. And bringing them into sculpture is kind of a way to see them in like a three-dimensional space. I think there's one thing looking at a character design on paper, and then there's another thing being able to like hold it and move it around, and it's that kind of tactile thing that I like with sculpture.
There's also the point of your class. You're going to teach how to make flexible arms and legs within your sculpture. So is it that kind of playful thing that you really enjoy working with that within your art?
It's kind of playful. It's almost like the same experience you get like I remember when I was a kid, like seeing like doll houses for the first time and just seeing like, with just appreciating like how things were so small, but you could easily recognize what they were. And I still get that same kind of feeling when I create something, even if it's something like, if I've done a sculpture and then I do like little buttons on the costume, it's small things like that that just kind of...
What about your creative process? How do you start and how does it usually evolve?
So everything I do starts on paper, so I'm always drawing. And then if I land on a design that I really like, everything's kind of done in advance, so I decide how tall I want it to be, and then I'll print it out to scale, and everything is then, I follow that design religiously. So the armature is made to the exact like proportions of that, the sculpture, the head, and then I think that came across in the tutorial that I sent you. It's all very kind of, it's predetermined, so I know how things are going to turn out. And that's kind of a thing, I mean, that's something we do in filmmaking, mainly because you've got such a big team. So everyone needs to know exactly how big something's going to be, because you could have like 10 different artists working on the same thing. But it's also because things take so long to make, so it's kind of good to have that pre-planning. But I do miss, like I've said to you before, like miss just picking up a piece of clay and working just from imagination. I don't do that very often.
Do you feel like you're capable of doing that? Because in my experience, since I started planning, as you said, more, sketching more, I feel a bit frightened just to take the material and not really knowing where I'm going.
Yeah, I think once you're out of practice of it, it is this kind of like a weird fear. And then I think it is just a thing of like, I don't necessarily want to spend a day or 2 days sculpting something that might not ever lead anywhere. Yeah. Mainly because of time, because I fit it around like commissions and other things. So it's like if I'm working on something, I want to know like where I'm heading.
Makes sense. Yeah. What about your brand new studio? Can you tell us how does it look like right now, and how do you enjoy the first day of playing there?
It looks really different actually to when you saw it. So it's it's had insulation put in, it's got walls, it's got wallpaper, it's got paneling. And the first day I spent in it, I was doing some character design work, so it was really nice just having a peaceful place to sit. I've never had my own space like that. And
it's a garden space, right? Like it's a garden house, a tiny house with your clay world inside, which is just spectacular. And it looks so cozy. And I hope it's going to be warm in winter as well.
It is. It's actually... When I was in there last week, it was a little bit too warm.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be okay.
What about your family and your husband, and how they are looking at your art and your creations?
I think when you do art as a job, it feels, I don't want to say it loses the magic, but it feels very kind of, it's just kind of ordinary. It doesn't feel like you're doing something necessarily special. Whereas I think from the outside perspective, so like my husband will look at something and he'll think that's really good. or like my family think I'm doing something really amazing. And then from my perspective, it's like, especially if I'm doing work for a client and there's like a deadline, I'm not always appreciating what I'm doing. I'm just thinking like, this is stressful, or can't wait till this part's done. And it's not always like, I think it's usually after I finish something that I kind of stop and appreciate that it was nice to do. Maybe when I'm in the moment, it's not always.
Do you still like your characters, even that you spent hours and hours on the process? Sometimes when you look at something for too long, it's suddenly like we see all the imperfections or things we would do differently.
I think I'm a perfectionist in a way that I don't know if I will ever please myself. So like when something's done, I will always see what's wrong with it, and I know other people don't. So people look at something I've made and they don't see small little things that I'm worrying about. But I think I know from speaking to more artists, that's kind of how everyone feels about it.
High five with that, because I have the same thing. It was like, oh, nobody's gonna see that. And I'm like, excuse me, like I do see that.
I think I have this thing as well where I'm not overly, like if someone else has made something, I will like look at it and appreciate like how great it is. If I've made something, I don't always feel the same like emotion towards it. So like I'm quite happy to throw something away and just start again. If it's not looking how I want it to. Yeah. And that's usually when my husband or like my family would be like, "Whoa, done."
Yeah.
Done.
And stop you there.
Yeah.
Well, there are a lot of aspects within your artwork that makes your work yours. And I definitely see the incredible texture, the way you work with colors. Yeah. What are the most important aspects of design and art for you that you really care about?
I think color, from a character design perspective, color is really important. So I am interested in color palettes. And quite often my work uses quite muted color palettes. I don't go crazy with lots of vibrant colors. So I'm definitely interested in that. And I think the way I work with clay as well, I nearly always work with colored clay. So even color palettes are kind of predetermined. So like everything is predetermined. I have the vision in my head, and it's just trying to get the vision into a finished sculpture. And sometimes it takes quite a lot of planning to get to that point. Or sometimes, like I said, like I will start something and it doesn't quite work. So I'm not afraid to change things as I go along. Yeah, everything down, color, shape, size, proportion, everything's kind of predetermined.
Wow, that sounds like a lot of planning. Yeah. That's pretty cool. When it comes to the character design, for a lot of people, that's the most difficult thing. And I assume that it didn't happen overnight to find your style and the details within your characters that makes them coherent together. Yeah. So when you look back, how did your style of characters evolved?
It's evolved by a lot, I think. And also I take influence from other artists. Like when I was first doing character designs, I was really interested in, this is going to sound like contradictory, but I was really interested in detail. So it was almost like capturing realism. Whereas now I don't think something necessarily needs to be overly detailed to look interesting. And one of my favourite artists is Quentin Blake, who does them beautiful like pen and ink illustrations. And looking at his work, you can see how he captures like a whole scene or a whole emotion with very like few kind of brush strokes on the paper, pen strokes. And some of the work I've been most proud of has been like a sketch that I've done in 30 seconds, and then I'll take that into a sculpture that I won't spend an awful lot of time on. So I think my work, I've tried to be a lot looser, even though it's like, it is still heavily planned, but it's not as kind of structured as it used to be. So I think my style's just got a little bit looser and maybe a little bit more playful.
Tomorrow at the class, where everything is going to start, people are going to be driving and designing their own characters. So what do you assume that we are going to see? Because you're going to have dozens of students and suddenly the result's going to be very, very different, I think. So what do you think we will see? I'm going to leave it on you.
I really don't know. I think because the character I've designed is so heavily in my kind of style of design, I don't know whether people will follow that quite strictly or go in the complete opposite direction and bring their own mark into it. But I think either would be interesting. I think as long as people have fun with what they're doing, I think that's all that really matters.
If it's going to work out and you will feel good, do you see yourself as a teacher then? Do that.
That's going to be the end of it.
I'm going to ask you on Sunday then.
I don't know.
Yeah. But I think people are going to love that. And also the experience for you, obviously it's difficult and there is a lot of energy you have to put in and a lot of things to solve to make sure everyone is going to be satisfied and will understand the process. But I already know you are planning everything and I seen your process and I know it's going to go very well.
I mean, hopefully.
Yeah, I am sure. It has to go well, actually. Yeah. But Andy, if there is some sort of recommendation for somebody who would love to dive into character design, into sculptures, what would you tell to those people?
Well, just go for it. I think I spent a lot of, especially when I first started out, I spent a lot of time just comparing myself to other artists and questioning myself as well. And I think as I've been doing it longer, as I've got a bit older, I've kind of learned to trust my instincts a little bit more. And I still have them moments where it's mainly if I'm doing stuff for a client, I'll work on something, and then just before I press send on the email, I'm panicking. I'm saying this isn't good enough, and then I'm usually quite surprised when I get feedback. So yeah, I think just go for it and don't be worried about just trusting your instincts.
That's a great one. Thank you so much for being on the Polymer Week Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.